So we're going to go through the Firefly Kit. This is the basic kit. It comes with a 20-meter rope, and this is primarily for tree landings, whether that's paraglider or parachute, but is also going to be used for ski lift egress for ski patrollers. There are going to be versions for military law enforcement and longer rope versions that'll have a slightly larger pouch, but this one's the standard 20-meter. So remove the retail packaging, and you can see the kit weighs just under 1.4 pounds. I think that's 612 grams, and it has the ability to mount on a belt, but you can remove those clips and it'll reduce the weight slightly and the bulk a little bit. When you open the kit up, there's a card just with emergency ground signals, and then there's also a log for the rope. And so the rope is good to 5 uses. So you're going to want to log each use. It gives you a couple training uses. You can reset it and then have up to 3 operational uses. And here is also the instructions. There's a little cheat sheet in here just to explain how to anchor it to the tree trunk or the tree limb and configure it and function the device. But we're going to go through all that in the video. So the first thing you'll notice is that everything is attached as it comes out, and then the pouch is kind of a standalone. Everything's in sequence, and so there's a 180 centimeter Dyneema sling. Dyneema is for the lightweight and the low bulk, and that would wrap either around the tree trunk, the tree branch. If you can't access the tree trunk or the tree branch, then you're going to wrap that through your risers of your parachute or your paraglider, and then the carabiner that connects to that. We want to make sure that when we secure these, we do up the screw gates. That anchors to the rope that then is to the Firefly device, which then goes to another carabiner and your diaper harness, and then to the rope, which you're going to drop down. All right, so we're going to show the demonstration of the descent with the Firefly. Now again, different applications are going to have different anchor configurations, and just because we're doing it on the tower right now, I'm not going to wrap the sling around anything. I'm just going to anchor it right off to the tower. So I'm going to make sure that gate is locked, and even just do best practice, we'll put the barrel downwards. Now you'll see the device itself. I need to be able to move that closer to me or further away from me, so we're going to get into that. We're going to don the harness. Even though I have a harness on right now, it's just for safety on the tower, but I'm actually going to rappel on the pocket hoist harness that comes with the device itself. Now, one of the most important things is after you establish your anchor, you need to ensure that the rope is going to reach the ground. And if it doesn't reach the ground, the last thing you want to do is rappel to the end of your rope, the end of the 20 meters, and then you're stuck there. So unless you can get to an intermediate branch, platform, something like that at that point, the last thing you want to do is hang on the end of your rope. You're probably better staying in your parachute harness, paraglider harness, or on the chairlift for that matter, rather than committing to something that's too high. So what the way that the rope is stowed in the bag, it should feed out really nice and clean, and so you should be able to just drop it and it hits. Now if you're in trees, thick trees, it may get hung up on branches, and so again, those are things that you want to try and avoid, and you want to try and kind of throw it downwards if you can make it through thin branches and avoid that. So for right now on the tower, I'm just going to drop the rope, and we've reached the bottom, so we've got no concerns there, no issues there. I can see that it's hit the bottom. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to don our harness, but you can see it's a little bit too far away, and that's going to be problematic, in real life as well. Is wherever you're suspended, you don't have the ability to go up and down if you're hanging in your harness. And so depending on if this is anchored in your risers or on a branch or on whatever it's on the tree trunk, then you have to be able to move this. And there's a little bit of nuance to how to move this. And so you'll see on the device itself, there's what we'll call a pre-friction rig plate, and then the rest is the major friction rig plate. And so to try and pull the rope through the device either way, it's not going to go. But what we can do is we can just pull a little bit of slack through this pre-tension rig plate, and then if that gives us the slack here, this is what we're looking for, is this little loop here. We just need enough slack to get our thumb in there. And then what we can do is we can pull, let's see if I can do this without getting my hands in the way of the camera. We can pull the rope as long as we hold the handle down so that it doesn't bind on it. You can pull the rope through. Get my hand out of there. So it brings it down to where we've got more than enough room now to get our pocket hoist harness on. So for the pocket hoist harness, it's a triangle shape. And there are 3 straps. So it's kind of hard to mess it up. You're just going to put, I'm just going to let that sit. We're going to put 2 straps around our waist, and then we're going to reach in between our legs, and the 3rd strap goes right up in there. And then just ensure you're capturing all 3 loops on the carabiner and secure that closed. Now you see we've got the opposite problem, and I'll just get this out of here now that I'm secured on here to keep it clean for the video. Okay, now you can see we've got the opposite problem. When we transfer the load, we're going to have to do, the atomic chin up, and then we might even have to drop onto it. So we want to avoid that. So again, it's the same thing, is let's pull the slack through that pre-friction plate as much as possible, and then hold that open, and we can pull that slack out. And there, now we've got the slack out, and the load transition is going to be somewhat similar. Okay, before we transfer our load, we want to do a final system safety check. So we're going to check the anchor, make sure that branch or the tree trunk and the sling is all correct and secure. Just double check it. Make sure our carabiner is done up, follow that rope down. We don't have to worry about the rigging of the device because that comes done in the factory, and all we're doing is pulling the rope through one way or the other. If this handle is still tucked in, and if you've moved the rope up and down, you would have rotated that handle out, but it's better if you had it out. It's got a little bit more purchase on that as well. We're going to make sure that the rope reaches the ground all the way. That's good to go. Our carabiner is secured, done up. We have all 3 loops captured because we don't want that to get confusing. All 3 loops captured on the harness, and we're ready to go. And so to commit the load, I'm just going to swing out and then load the system. And you'll notice the system is auto-locking, so I can go hands-free right away. The system's also one-handed, so I don't need to hold the brake hand necessarily. You can see I can just touch that and it starts the descent. But if I let go, I'm going to stop with one-hand control. If I want more control, I can definitely hold onto the brake hand, and then I can just feed that in a little bit. And it does give me more control with the brake hand on, but for whatever reason, if you're injured, the other thing is you can do it on the other side one-handed. If this is the injured arm, no problem. And when you let go, the device stops. More control with 2 hands if need be. So I can just do a nice, easy one-handed descent. You'll notice if you get a little bit of momentum, it'll keep running, but you'll notice it doesn't necessarily run away. And if you push up on the handle, it'll stop. Just push up and push up. Now, the other thing to note too is the device is going to get quite warm, which isn't an issue necessarily, but we've got the molding on the handle. So just avoid touching the warm component. If you're there's no reason to touch the other component, just touch the handle and everything will be totally fine. You're not going to burn your hand because typically you're not going to be wearing gloves when you're parachuting or paragliding unless it's cold out. Then when you get to the bottom, you're secured. You can remove the carabiner, remove the harness, and you made it to safety. Okay, we're going to go through resetting the system after you've done your training runs or potentially even an operational run. Remember, the system is good up to 5 uses, and that's very strictly dependent on the condition of your rope. And so if your rope had abraded over an edge, be that a branch or the building or the tower or whatever you're doing the training on, you're going to want to give it a good inspection, and any significant wear is going to be problematic, and you're going to want to retire it. Remember, this is a tiny 3.8 mil rope, and your life is counting on it, and so don't take any risks whatsoever. So the rope is in a bit of a mess right now, and that's on purpose because we want to show you guys how to reset it from a mess. The first thing we'll do is we'll open up the rope bag. So there's just a knot in there, and then that opens up, and you'll see on the inside the rope is secured to the bottom. And I'm just going to take it off and show you there is a stopper, a red stopper that is stitched to the end of the rope. So if for whatever reason the bag comes off or you don't have the bag, then that is still there to prevent that from going through the device. We're just tying that in a simple overhand knot. It's not to add any structure or strength. Obviously that's going to reduce strength, but we're not too concerned about it at the very end. And then we can stuff that back inside the bag. Now the technique for restowing this, and the stuff sack might be a little bit smaller with the unit that you guys have, no problem at all. The idea is you're going to hold the bag in your hand, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to hold it in my left hand with just the thumb. I'm going to pinch the thumb on the inside of the bag between my finger that's on the outside of the bag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rope through the rest of my fingers and just curl it around, and that's going to be kind of my guide. And then with my other hand, I'm actually going to try and put it inside the bag. If it's too small to get my hand in there, no problem. I can just put my thumb and my finger inside the bag. And then what I'm doing is I'm just feeding it. And you just feed it into the bottom of the bag. And just feeding it this way is going to allow it to come out quite clean. So it's just a feed. And then you'll see here, I just want to do very deliberate untangles. I don't want to be chaotic and try and get stuff undone. I'm going to take a critical look at how that rope is tangled. And now we got that out. I'm going to keep on going. Okay, now we've gotten to the device. And so it was pretty short rappel because the tower is pretty short. But once you get to the device, you're going to want to reset that device back to the top of the rope. And this is the critical component that you're going to want to inspect the rope as well, is the part that slid through the device itself. So to do this, remember we're going to take that slack out of the pre-rig plate. So, and on this one, we can take it all the way. See this knots, no problem. These tangles are just loops, and we can get rid of those loops quite easily if we're slow and deliberate about it. So we'll reset it right to there. Then again, pull it through the other hole in the pre-rig plate. Notice I'm just doing a nice little pile of the rope on either side as I pull it through. Okay, and then the last one, before I do it through the main rig plate at the bottom, just pulling all that through. Okay, and I don't see, there's a little tiny bit, I don't know if you guys can see, there's a little tiny bit of wear. You can see the strands coming off there. It's not too bad. I'm okay with that. If there's any major abrasion, like if you have, significant wear to one of those braids, then that can be problematic. But just these small little feathers, there's definitely going to be wear with it, but that's acceptable right there. Okay, so we got it through all the way. Now, here's where we just want to make sure that this isn't clamping down. See how that clamps down? So we just want to hold that open, and I'll hold it against the carabiner open, and then I can pull it through the main friction plate. Just watch the twists. It's always going to be some twisting. Okay, there we go. Now we're reset to the top of the rope where we want to be. We can fold that handle back over, lay that down, and we can continue stowing the rest of the rope the same way in the bag. Now, at this point here, we can compress the rope down a little bit if we want. Try and get as much of it in there as we can. We're going to cinch up the top and tie that overhand knot in a slip. So it's got a loop and a pull. And then we're going to put this in the little black pouch. And there's no real fancy way to do it. You can just stuff this into the bottom and give it a good mash. It's not going to mess the rope up. The rope is still going to come out nice and clean. You can mash that down. Get your pocket hoist harness. You're going to clip onto that carabiner, and your anchor sling gets clipped onto the other carabiner. I leave the gates open when they're in stowage so that it's quick to reassemble. And then I put the carabiner spine kind of midway, and I go with the pocket hoist in first, and then again you can mash that down, put the device in. Try and make sure that rope is away from the zipper. We don't want to snag the rope with the zipper. The next carabiner goes in and the sling, and if you want you can put your instruction manual back in there as well. It's best to put that in first, and then it just zips up and your system is reset. Then you can give it a good push, kind of flatten it out, get it nice and shaped, and that's the reset.